The last image of Cristiano Ronaldo at a World Cup is not a goal celebration. It's not a fist raised to the sky. It's not the pose the world has seen 1,000 times, the chest out, the arms wide, the look that says, "I am the greatest who has ever done this." The last image is a man of 41 years old standing in the middle of AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, with his eyes red and his face wet, applauding the fans who came to watch him one final time, knowing that what just happened in the 91st minute cannot be undone. Miguel Merino, 5 minutes after coming off the bench, a low finish past Diogo Costa, 1-0. And just like that, the sixth World Cup of Cristiano Ronaldo's life was over. It ended with a whisper when it deserved a roar, and the football world, regardless of which side of the Ronaldo debate you've ever stood on, stopped for a moment to feel the weight of what it was watching. So what exactly happened in Arlington on July 6, 2026? And what does it tell us about the greatest individual career in the history of football and the one trophy that was never his to hold? Let's go back to the day before the match, because the press conference Ronaldo gave on the eve of Portugal's round of 16 clash with Spain was one of the most revealing conversations he has ever had in a World Cup setting. The room was full, the cameras were rolling, and at the end of a session that had been mostly lighthearted, something shifted. A reporter from Argentina asked him about his age, about whether at 41 he could still be the decisive force Portugal needed against a Spain side that had conceded 0 goals in their entire campaign to that point. Ronaldo answered with the banter he's famous for in these settings. He deflected, he smiled, he talked about fitness and preparation and the love he still has for the game. But then, unprompted, he confirmed what he had already said quietly in an earlier interview during the tournament. This was his last World Cup. He said it clearly. He said it without drama, the way you say something you've already made peace with. And then he said something else that stayed with everyone in the room long after the cameras were turned off. He said he had won 3 titles with Portugal and that the 2016 European Championship was on the same level as a World Cup for him. He said he had given everything, and he said that whatever happened against Spain, he would walk off that pitch with a clear conscience. A clear conscience. That phrase became the headline, and it carried a specific weight that only makes complete sense when you understand the full history of what Ronaldo and the World Cup have meant to each other across 20 years. His first World Cup was 2006 in Germany. He was 21 years old. He was electric. Portugal reached the semifinals, their best ever performance in the tournament's history, and Ronaldo was a central part of everything. He scored, he created, he pressed. He was the future standing in front of the present and announcing himself to the world. And then the World Cup kept happening. 2010 in South Africa, 2014 in Brazil, 2018 in Russia, 2022 in Qatar. Each one carrying the same expectation, and none of them delivering the ending the story seemed to demand. In Qatar, 4 years ago, it appeared to be over. Portugal lost to Morocco in the quarterfinals, Ronaldo's backup scored a hat-trick in his absence, and the images of him leaving the pitch in tears seemed to close a chapter permanently. But Martinez arrived, and Martinez built Portugal's tournament strategy around something controversial from the very beginning, keeping Ronaldo at the center of everything, not just as a symbol or a captain, but as a starter, as the man the team would look to when a goal was needed. That decision was debated throughout Portugal's campaign. In their group stage matches, Ronaldo scored against Uzbekistan in a comfortable win, but in the matches that mattered, against teams that actually reached the knockout rounds, he contributed only a penalty against Croatia. The criticism grew louder as the tournament progressed. The argument was simple. At 41, in the most physically demanding competition on earth, with Rafael Leao sitting on the bench capable of exploiting space in ways that Ronaldo simply can't anymore, continuing to build a team around Ronaldo was a romantic decision rather than a tactical one. And against Spain, that argument was given its most painful evidence. The match itself was exactly what an Iberian derby at a World Cup should be. Tense, tactical, neither side willing to give an inch. Spain, who had not conceded a single goal in their entire campaign, brought their goalkeeper Unai Simon into the match, having already extended his World Cup record to 609 consecutive minutes without conceding.
That number is not a coincidence. It is the product of an organization so disciplined, so coordinated, so certain of what it is doing defensively that it makes everything look simple.
Portugal could not break it down. Ronaldo had 19 total touches across 90 minutes. 19. 12 in the first half, which was the fewest he has ever recorded in the first half of any World Cup match across his entire career, and 7 in the second half, with none at all after the 80th minute. He attempted 3 shots. He came close in the 37th minute when Simon blocked a João Felix shot directly into his path, but he couldn't generate enough on the rebound and Simon made the diving save. Simon denied him again before halftime. The numbers tell the story of a player who was not where the game was happening. Portugal generated just 0.58 expected goals from 10 attempts across the entire match. That is the production of a team that is not functioning offensively. And the decision to keep Gonçalo Ramos, the player who had scored late heroics against Croatia and who would have offered movement and pressing that Ronaldo's body at 41 simply cannot replicate, on the bench for the entire 90 minutes will be analyzed and debated in Portugal for years. Martinez was asked about it directly after the match. He said that when you need a goal, you cannot take Cristiano Ronaldo off. He said Ronaldo is a presence, that he opens space, that in a dead ball situation or anything in the box, he remains a threat. He said it would have made no sense to substitute him during normal time, and admitted only that in extra time it probably would have made sense to bring Ramos on. There was no extra time, because in the 91st minute, Spain did exactly what Spain had been doing throughout this entire tournament. They made a substitution, and their substitute immediately changed the match. Ferran Torres came on, Mikel Merino came on. 5 minutes of added time began, and then Torres played a ball into the area that Merino met with a composure that only players with extraordinary nerve possess. Low, past Costa, into the net. The AT&T Stadium erupted for one half of its crowd and fell silent for the other. The final whistle came quickly after, and when it did, the cameras found Ronaldo. He didn't collapse, he didn't fall to his knees, he stood in the center of the pitch and he let the emotion move through him the way it does when you've held it for 90 minutes and there is no longer any reason to hold it back. He wiped his eyes, he applauded the Portuguese supporters in the stands, and then he walked, slowly, to the tunnel. After the match, he spoke, and what he said was both generous and heartbreaking in equal measure. He said he had a clear conscience. He said he had given everything, every single day for this shirt, for this tournament, for this country. He said winning the 2016 European Championship with Portugal was on the same level as a World Cup for him, and that he carried it with the same pride. He said he had won 3 titles with Portugal, and that no one could take that from him. He acknowledged this was the last World Cup, and he accepted it. He didn't blame the system, he didn't blame Martinez, he didn't criticize the tactical decisions that kept Leao on the bench or kept Ramos waiting. He took everything onto himself, the way he always has, and he said he had no regrets.
His coach said more about him in that moment than Ronaldo said about himself. Martinez called him an exemplary captain. He said he had arrived to find a program surrounded by confusion and doubts about Ronaldo, and that across his 3.5 years in charge, Ronaldo had been a role model in everything, not just goals and assists, but commitment, leadership, and the way he experiences football. He called him an icon. He said there aren't many Cristiano Ronaldos, and he said that what Ronaldo did at this World Cup, how much he wanted to win it as a player, as a captain, as a human being, would be carried by everyone connected to the squad forever. The numbers of Ronaldo's World Cup career close here. 27 appearances at World Cups, second only to Lionel Messi's 30. 11 goals, 1 hat-trick, that extraordinary 3-goal performance against Spain in Russia in 2018, and 0 World Cup titles. He leaves as the all-time leader in international goals with 146. He leaves as the most capped international footballer in history with 233 appearances. He leaves as a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner, a 5-time Champions League winner, a figure whose career achievements across club and country are matched by almost no one who has ever played the game. And yet the World Cup, the one trophy that defines the absolute summit of international football, remains the answer to the question that will follow his legacy forever.
the one that got away, the one that the story seemed written for and that reality refused to deliver. His greatest rival lifted it in 2022. That detail doesn't need to be labored, but it exists, and it will exist in every comparison, every debate, every conversation about where Ronaldo sits in the hierarchy of football's all-time greats. For Spain, the result means a quarterfinal against Belgium, who dismantled the United States 4-1 in what was one of the most lopsided knockout results of the tournament. Their goalkeeper has still not conceded a single goal at this World Cup. Their substitutes keep deciding matches. Their manager keeps being right. The tournament is still wide open, but the team that has looked most consistently convincing throughout is still the same team it has been since the first whistle of the group stage. For Portugal, the end of the Ronaldo era as the centerpiece of the national team is no longer a debate or a discussion. It is simply the reality that the next generation will have to build from. Bruno Fernandes, Pedro Neto, Vitinha, Rafael Leao, who had the pace and the instinct to cause Spain problems that were never unleashed because of the decisions made at the top. This Portugal team is not finished, but the next chapter will look very different from everything that came before it. And for Ronaldo, the question now is simply what comes next for a man who has never lived a life without the next target already in focus. There is no next World Cup. There is no next chance to change the story. The last chapter of his international career was written on the 91st minute of a Monday afternoon in Texas by a Spanish substitute who had been on the pitch for 5 minutes. He said he had a clear conscience, and perhaps that is enough. Perhaps after everything, after 20 years of World Cups and 6 tournaments and 27 matches and 11 goals, and every sacrifice that goes with dedicating your life to being the best at something, a clear conscience is not a consolation prize. Perhaps it's the only thing that matters in the end. But the tears on his face when the final whistle blew said something slightly different. They said that a clear conscience and a World Cup winner's medal are not the same thing, and that the man who spent his entire career refusing to accept that anything was impossible finally had to accept that one thing was. What do you think? Does Ronaldo's World Cup legacy suffer without that title? Or do his numbers and his longevity at this level make him irreplaceable in football history regardless? And did Martinez make the wrong decision keeping him on for 90 minutes when Ramos and Leao were both available on the bench? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for complete World Cup quarterfinal coverage, and share this with any football fan who watched that final whistle and felt something they weren't quite expecting to feel.